All right, hello, Metal Maniacs. It's the Meister from Brews and Tunes. Cheers. I'm super excited tonight. I am chatting with multi-talented, multi-instrumental vocalist, mixing, producer, and you know, all facets of the music industry. The one and only Mr. Alex Rapetti, of course, of the bands, Infinite Spectrum. Severed Angel, I have a t-shirt right here,
Wow.
and Tension Rising. Three amazing bands. So, Alex, thank you so very much for chatting with me tonight. How you doing, sir?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat with you. This is great. So I think first off, I just have to congratulate you on an incredibly productive and busy 2023. All three, I mean, one, you're in three bands, you're a super busy guy. Three bands, you're a singer, you're a vocalist in Severed Angel. You also do some vocals in Infinite Spectrum, and you're also a bass player, guitar player, mixing engineer, producer. And all three bands released new material this year. And quite a
Yes.
bit of it. I mean, not just especially Severed Angel, not just an album, but like multiple singles that aren't on the album. So yeah, busy guy. So congratulations.
Yes.
It's
Thank you.
yeah, it's been as a listener, it's very exciting because
That's
there's
great to hear.
so much cool stuff happening right now. So I know I think Tension Rising, the EP came out at the very beginning of the year, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
January.
That's
Yeah.
what I thought. The Last Judgment,
Hmm.
very cool stuff. And then Severed Angel was uh just a month or two ago. I have no sense of time
Mm,
anymore. So
May. It was in May.
okay, it was in May. And then Cage, the latest album from Infinite Spectrum, was also very recent, this summer. If I'm not mistaken, I'm probably mistaken.
June.
Okay, yeah, I knew it was.
Or was it? It was either June or July. I'm actually not
Yeah,
sure.
I'm not sure either, but yeah, but I mean, and all of them, their own thing. They're all very different, and all very compelling, and complex and interesting, and just incredible albums.
Oh,
So
thank you.
and yeah, really cool stuff. I mean, you guys have put in a lot of work. The multiple groups you're in.
Yeah.
Just yeah, a very exciting year. So yeah, what's next? Like, what do you have some other secret band that we don't know of that you're releasing something soon?
uh, Secret band, no. Um, I mean, there's definitely music in the works for all three of those bands.
Oh, cool,
Yeah.
very cool.
So there's no loss of momentum.
Great, that's excellent. Yeah, I know that. I talked to Lou and Wayne from Severed Angel a while ago, and they had told me that it sounds like, I mean, you guys are just writing and writing, and I mean, from what I understood from them,
Mhm.
like you guys have another album, pretty much already kind of started and mapped out in a lot of ways, or at least in the process.
Our second album is already fully completed.
Oh wow,
Mastered artwork, everything is done.
wow,
Um, and the third one is probably about 80% there.
wow, that's ambitious. That's cool. That's amazing.
Yeah, we just really hit a stride when we started, and we're just gonna keep doing it until we don't.
Nice. Yeah, I would say that I think well, and I think this is true with all three bands. I think you guys gel so well. I mean, it feels very for lack of a better term, it feels very organic, as a listener.
Hmm.
It feels all of them. And again, they're all very different. With Severed Angel, it's there's definitely some prog elements there, but it's very power metal.
Yeah,
Whereas Infinite Spectrum is definitely a progressive metal album.
yeah.
And so really interesting, very complex, really cool concepts, storyline. And I love and I know that band's been around for a while, at least 10 years, if not more. Um,
Yeah, 16.
16 years. Oh wow, cool.
Yeah.
Nice. And and I thought it was interesting that so you and Alex Rakin, is that how you pronounce it?
Raken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're in both Tension Rising and in Infinite Spectrum together, right?
Yes. Yes.
Nice. Did you guys grow up together? Is this, have been working together for a long time?
Well, we met in college. So we were like 18 years old. Um, and we were in a class together. We never talked. And then I wore a Dream Theater shirt one day,
Oh,
and then we
nice.
talked. And yeah, within a year of that, we were meeting up almost every day, writing music, which would eventually become the first Infinite Spectrum album.
Nice, nice.
So yeah,
Um,
yeah, we've
the
been at it 16 years. Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool. That was Misguided. Was that's the,
Yes.
yeah, okay. Sorry, my memory does not serve me as it used to. So
Hey, you got it right.
yeah. And yeah, the Cage album is phenomenal. It's great. I love the
Oh,
fact
thank you.
that you guys have, guest vocalists.
Yeah.
I thought that was a cool idea. You sing on it as well. You do lead on
Hmm.
one song.
Yep.
And yeah, no, there's female vocalists, there's male vocalists. There's a anonymous vocalist. I thought that was interesting, that didn't want to be named for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Um, I think I know who it might be, but I'm not going to spill the beans there. But yeah, I thought it was really fantastic, and it's what I love about that album, and all of the stuff, all the music that you write in the various bands. But one thing that really grabbed me with that is that it is this progressive metal band, with very complex song structures, but there's also they're catchy. There's these wonderful hooks that really,
Mm.
I think of, is it Far Away, I think is the name of the song that Sarah
Hmm.
sings on from
Yes.
Sarah Teets. And that just, I mean, that I just start singing along with it, and it's like gets me
Mm.
going. And yeah, yeah, got such a great melody, and just a great, I mean, and her vocals are incredible.
Yeah, she killed it. Yeah.
I mean, her work with Mind Maze is fantastic, and yeah, I've
Yes.
always been floored by her singing. Just a huge vocalist. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I thought that was a great combination of singers and musicians on that album. It really,
Oh, thank you.
I mean, and your previous albums are great too, but that one just, it feels like with each album you guys just expand, kind of, you know, musically, and I think, even philosophically, maybe. I don't know if that's the right term for it, but there's just, it just
Mm.
feels like, and again, it feels very organic. It just feels like this very organic growth, musical growth, which I think is very cool.
That's awesome. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really cool stuff. um
It was a
uh
very ambitious project, getting all the different people involved.
yeah, I would imagine. And it had been quite a while since you guys had done something, at
Yeah.
least an album. So, and was that partly because of the, um trying to put that together?
Partly. I mean, honestly, some of it was just like kind of internal personal issues and life changes for some of the band members and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, part of it was definitely just that it was a very ambitious goal. It's not something we could have rushed through, really.
Right, right.
Yeah.
um Sorry, I'm jumping around a lot. It's just you're in three amazing bands, so I just keep thinking of the different things the bands are doing, and I don't know how you keep it straight, to be honest.
Not
But
easy.
well, and especially because, I mean, not only are you play, do you either, well, you play an instrument in all the bands, and then you do some of the singing, or the lead singer of Severed Angel, of course. But then you're the guy that mixed these albums and produced these albums, so you're so
Yeah.
involved with all aspects of it, which I think is pretty amazing. Um, has that always been Was that always kind of a goal for you? Were you always fascinated with the mixing process and the production process,
Hmm. Honestly, no.
or you just kind of fell into it? Or
Yeah, honestly, like kind of having like slow progress on previous albums, taking a long time and not really loving how the production was coming out, but not really knowing how to articulate what I wanted, kind of led me down the path of learning it. And really, once the pandemic happened, I had a bunch of free time on my hands, and I just dove in 100%. And lived and breathed production and mixing.
Wow.
Before then, I figured I considered myself more of an amateur in those
Okay.
realms, but now I do it all the time. So
Cool. Yeah, and I think you've done a great job. And I think it's testament, just you listen to those albums, and I think it's testament to the skill that you've acquired doing that. It's they're
thank
really
you.
well produced. Like the sound is I think of, Severed Angel, the self-titled Severed Angel album that just came out this summer. And it's just such a rich textured album. And especially for, because it's heavy. I mean, there are some, as I mentioned before, there's some prog elements to it, maybe, and I think a lot of that comes out from the keys.
Yeah.
But it's a heavy hitting album. It's metal. It's very metal, but it
Yes.
also is like a really nice, the sound is so well balanced. That was one thing
Thank
that
you.
I mean, once I finished banging my head, I was like, okay, this, like, really listening to it, it's like, wow, this is really, I don't want to say clean, but I mean, it's, because it's got some grit to it, but it just, I guess, yeah, again, it's so well balanced. It just fits so nicely. Everything, you can hear everything really well. Because that's, I think, always a frustration, I think, for listeners with, certain bands and certain albums where, like, oh, the bass is too low, or, this seems too low, or,
Yeah.
I wish they would have brought that up, where I think you obviously have a really good ear for that. So I
I
think,
try my best.
yeah, I think you do. I think you nail it. I mean,
Oh,
and
thank
the
you.
same goes with Cage. I think, that album. I think the same thing. It's just beautifully recorded. Just
Thank you.
has a lot of depth to it, which, and and I think it's true of all of the albums that came out this year, and the singles, is that the more I listen to them, the more I hear. Which is nice, and it's, so I tend to go back a lot to your music, because it's like, wow, there's always these nuances that I missed before. Like, I can't believe I missed that the last time I heard it.
Oh, wow.
I think you're doing a lot of cool things with the production and the mixing there, as well
Oh,
as
thank you.
obviously the musicianship. I was curious, so and I know, with Tension Rising too, that band's been around for a while as well, close to 10
Yes.
years, I think. So how did,
Might be
um
more. Yeah.
oh yeah, so,
I joined in 2015, but I know that they were
a
around for
bit,
some years before that.
oh, okay, gotcha. um so, but, and then Severed Angel is like a brand new band.
Brand new.
And so how did that come about? I mean, you're in these established bands, with Alex, Rakin, and, somebody you've worked with for a long time.
Yeah.
How did you get involved with Severed Angel?
Well, there's not really a short answer for that, but I'll just go into it. So Wayne and I have a mutual friend, Stan, um, who introduced us because Wayne needed someone to mix his other band, Project Resurrect.
Oh, okay.
And I ended up doing it. And then Wayne and I kind of just hit it off, and I went on his podcast, and we stayed in touch. I met Lou through the podcast. Um, and then I ended up mixing the Rat Salad Review cover songs that they do sometimes.
Oh yeah, cool.
So that was fun. And then they asked me to, I think, play guitar on one of the tracks or something. Yeah, I did a guitar solo on the Kiss song that they did. And from there, Wayne and Lou, I guess, had been like cooking up the idea of starting to do originals instead of just covers. And but they never would have asked me to be the singer, because they didn't even know that I did that at the time.
Oh, interesting.
I hadn't released any music with my singing on it, except for just the occasional harmony part. Um, but at the beginning of last year, so like a year and a half ago, I put out a single, just of my own, for the first time, which had me singing on it, which I hadn't done before. Really, the point of the song wasn't for my singing. I just wanted to make a song by myself.
Okay.
And because through all the years, I'd always just worked with bands, and I thought it would be fun to just try something on my own. And Wayne really liked how I sounded on there and said, "Hey, I didn't know that you sang. Do you want to join this band we're making?" And I said, "I don't think so. I wasn't really looking to become a singer. I just did it on that track." Um, but then my better half, Gail, said to me, "Hey, if they're asking you, why don't you just do it? It sounds like it would be fun. What do you have to lose?" And I said, "Well, I guess I don't really have anything to lose." So I tried it, and within the first 3 months, we had an album done.
Wow.
So um, I'm very glad that she coaxed me into doing it. And
Yeah. As am I. Yeah.
yeah, I never thought I was going to go down that path. I always looked at myself as the instrumentalist guy.
It's
But
cool.
now, since working with them, I'm singing every day and practicing, and you know,
Nice.
yeah. So it's been a very big, unexpected role switch, which is
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. And I think it pays off because it's, um, as as I'm sure you've seen on Facebook and other social media, the album's doing really well and getting
Yeah.
a lot of kudos and a lot of play and
Hmm.
a lot of attention, which is great to see. And
Very
as it
pleasantly surprising.
Yeah, which is really cool. Yeah, it's like it really seemed to pick up, but I think it was marketed well. I think you guys really
Yeah.
did a good job of, especially like releasing singles that aren't on the
Hmm.
album first, which I thought was cool. Releasing all these
Right.
interesting singles and some covers um and then just kind of giving little snippets over the months before it was released, like
Hmm.
the album cover and I thought it was great, and then little snippets of songs, and I think you
Hmm.
guys did a really good job of kind of that grassroots marketing. I thought was brilliant. And yeah, it seems like, yeah, I'm seeing it a lot. I'm seeing a lot of traction. And I think that's cool. As well as with
Yeah.
Cage too. I think, I'm seeing some stuff out there as well, which is great to see as well. Because yeah,
Thank you.
two great bands. And it's so nice to see success, and because I know the music industry, especially now in 2023, is a weird beast, especially for metal in America. It used
Yes.
to be a very
Hmm.
bizarre, like, I don't understand it at all anymore. It doesn't make sense
I,
to me.
I feel the same way.
Yeah, it's like I don't know what's cool, what's not cool. I'm too old, I guess. I don't know, but it's great to see that, a band doing well when yeah, you're just not sure if, in this climate, like who's going to do well, who's not going to do well, because I mean,
Right.
there's a lot of talent out there, and bands
Yes.
just, not nothing against them, but they just can't seem to get out of the just playing bars and nothing else, and opening, and then they just kind of fall apart eventually because they just can't get any traction.
Yeah.
And that being said, do you guys have, for any of three of the bands, and I don't know if you have any time to do this, or any of the members have time to do this, do you guys have any shows lined up? Are you doing any touring at all, or festivals, or
It would be nice for all or any of the three. Infinite Spectrum, I've like toured with and done lots of gigs with through the years, but we don't have anything on the books as of now.
okay.
Um, Partially just because of scheduling, and partially just because of well, our band lineup is actually incomplete at the moment, and
Okay.
um, so we're still kind of working through that. Although we're very, very happy that Will Shaw, who is one of the guest singers on Cage, has joined as our singer since then.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
great
phenomenal.
vocalist. Yeah, he's got
Yeah,
a huge voice.
he's out of this world. Yeah, his range just is mind-boggling to me. He could sing like almost an octave above me. It's
Oh wow.
incredible. Um, but yeah, we still have to kind of fill out the band, and then we have to rehearse. Infinite Spectrum, in particular, as you mentioned, the music is really complex and difficult. So we would probably need several months of rehearsals before we can um, really reproduce it live in a a way that does it justice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
That.
when we recorded the parts, we had been practicing a lot, but since then, I'd have to kind of relearn all of it at this point.
Yeah.
Some of those bass lines are very, very challenging,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then having to sing harmonies while doing it too. Um, for Severed Angel, we're hoping to get something going. That one's more of a logistical challenge because we all don't really live that close to each other. Um, Namely, our bassist, he lives like 3 or 4 hour drive away.
Oh, okay.
Um, but we do plan to. We have rehearsed in person a few times, and we'll probably get that going again, hopefully sooner than later.
Cool.
But yeah, logistically, it's just challenging. But we do hope to do some shows for Severed Angel. Um, but at least for the time being, we're just really hammering away at the writing. We just really seem to have got this like uh, massive momentum going, and in really only just over a year, we almost have 3 full albums, and
Yeah, that is wild. That
on
is.
top of like another 10 singles or something. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty much every week. I think with almost no exceptions, I'm either producing or recording or mixing something for Severed Angel. There's always something Severed Angel every week.
Wow.
Um,
What would you say is the driving factor right now with the writing? Is it a particular person in the band that's kind of like
hmm,
coming up with riffs or lyrics or whatever the case may be that's kind of kind of pushing it forward,
that's a good
accelerating
question.
that. Um,
Um, I really think that it has actually varied from album to album, which is a funny thing to say because we've only released one album. But on the first album, Lou and the keyboard player Mark were like very much like the driving force, I think, of the writing, and um, lyrically, all 5 of us were contributing, which definitely sped the process along.
yeah.
Um, I'd say since then, I've been adding a lot more of my writing. Um, the second album, I think, probably is about half and half Lou and I.
Okay.
Um, at least writing the initial songs. We all like write our own parts and whatnot, but just the initial ideas. Lyrically, writing lyrics was even still kind of relatively new to me. I only really started doing that in the last few years.
Oh, okay.
But uh, I've gotten a lot faster at it now. So for the last, I don't know, 20 or so songs that we did, I've been writing probably most of the lyrics for Severed Angel.
Oh, cool.
Um, but as far as like the driving force, yeah, I think really what makes it happen is that all 5 of us are actually active and contributing. I feel like in most bands, and certainly in bands that I've been in through the years, as you said, there's usually like 1 or 2 guys who are kind of like making it happen, and
Yeah.
the rest are kind of along for the ride. Um, but with Severed Angel, it really is like all 5 of us are pushing, which is why it's moving so quickly.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's almost like like an East Coast super group in a lot of ways because you guys have all been in all these other bands and you'll have all this, you have all this,
That's true.
history and talent that you're bringing to it. It's not like anybody's a newbie, and um, yeah, so that might be a
Right.
factor. I'm total speculation there. Um,
No, that's no, that's certainly true. Everyone in the band has been through the music and band ringer many times over, and so we're like very much a no drama in it, just for fun, doing it because we love it um, mindset,
yeah,
and that's why it works so well. It's been very, very fun. it's just, yeah, honestly, like it's probably the smoothest I've like ever had, smoothest experience I've ever had in a band.
Nice.
And I mean, I love the other bands that I'm in, but Severed Angel is like something else because all five people are on the same wavelength.
Yeah. 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 And it seems like you guys just gel so well, and um and you know, whenever everybody I've met in the band is incredibly nice and incredibly funny, and just seems like, you know, it seems like you all seem like really fun people to hang out with. Like it'd be fun just to be a fly on the wall, you know, watching the process. I think that would be great. So
Being in our band chat on Facebook, that's our primary way of communicating is through Facebook Messenger. But yeah, if people got to take a peek into that, they would crack up, I think.
I'm sure.
It's
Yeah. Yeah.
just between Wayne and Lou, their banter is something else.
Oh yeah, yeah. When I interviewed those two together, like the after we finished recording,
Hmm.
just I could tell they've known each other for a long time, and it was,
Yeah.
and you know, they take little punches at each other. They were pretty funny. They
Yes.
were cracking me up. They're pretty funny guys,
Yeah.
and wonderfully friendly and down to earth.
Hmm.
But yeah, very very witty. Both of them are very witty, and yeah, it was fun to watch that back and forth between the two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. Um, uh, yeah. So kind of to circle back a little bit, is the writing process different for you for the other bands? Is it a similar process? Uh, I know you know, in Infinite Spectrum and Tension Rising, you're a bass player in those both of those bands.
Yes.
So it's, you know, probably a little bit of a different approach, I would imagine.
Yeah. It's very different. Yeah. Like so for Tension Rising, the writing, well, that band only has three people in it at
Okay.
this time anyway. It's Alex Rakin is in the band, but really he kind of just comes in at the end and adds guitar leads. Like that's the arrangement we have.
Gotcha.
So like Tension Rising's writing is 100% the singer Chris, who's also the rhythm guitar player, and myself.
Okay.
So with Tension Rising, it's very much like one of us will start a song and we'll just keep bouncing it back and forth until it's done.
Hmm.
We don't care like who comes up with what parts and stuff. Even though I'm the bassist, sometimes I'll write and record some guitar parts, and sometimes he'll do the same with bass. It's just whoever thinks of something, and then we write the drums together, and just they're programmed.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Interesting.
um, yeah, I spend a lot of time trying to make them not sound programmed.
Yeah, I had no idea. That's
Yeah. So that, yeah, that process is very much like just like a two-person job. Like we just go back and forth until it's done.
nice.
Um, I would call it just like a 50-50 thing. With Infinite Spectrum, it varies a lot through the years, and there's a 16-year history there. So I would say like back at the beginning when the band was only Alex Rakin and myself. It was pretty much what I just described for Tension Rising as well.
Hmm.
Just Alex Rakin and I would just write everything back and forth. We would actually, at the time, we lived closer to each other because we were going to the same college, and we literally would just meet in person like 5 or 6 days a week for a few hours and just write music. And we didn't care who wrote what instrument. Although one difference with Infinite Spectrum, especially back then, is we wrote our music in a program called Guitar Pro,
Oh,
um, which is just like this basic program that's actually meant for people to just like look up guitar tabs and learn how to play them. But we pushed that program well beyond the limits it was intended for,
cool.
because it has like some basic guitar sounds and keyboard sounds. So at the beginning, we were only like 18 years old, maybe even 17, I guess 18. And frankly, the music we were writing from our heads was too hard for us to play at the time. We had to kind of grow into the part. Because both Alex Rakin and I, we started learning how to play an instrument later in life compared to some people. I
Oh,
think he
interesting.
started when he was 15 and I started when I was 16.
Oh, okay.
Um, so at this point, he had only been playing for like 3 years and I had been playing for 2 years. So we were still relatively new, especially to play music of this type.
Yeah.
Um, so it was too hard for us to really play well at the beginning. And we didn't really have like good equipment to record with. So we just wrote inside of this program, like with MIDI. Um, and that was our entire writing process for the first album.
Wow.
Like we wrote the full album, full 80-minute album, plotted it out, wrote the original story, wrote all the songs to go with it, had every instrument completely arranged in MIDI,
Wow.
like on a score, and then had to learn how to play it, and then like do our best to record it and produce it, and um,
That's
yeah. So that was a very fun, interesting growing process because we had to figure out how to do everything at each
yeah.
step of the way. We didn't like know how to do it already yet. Um, for
That's
the second album, it was a similar process, although we had more know-how at that point and some better equipment, and like half a dozen years of practice on our belts at that point. So we were able to play the music a little easier. um, and of course, by then we also had our ex-singer Will Severin in the band. So we didn't write any of the vocals on that album. He did that part.
oh, okay.
Um, but otherwise the writing process was the same. It was the two of us going back and forth. Although Stan, who I mentioned in
Oh, yeah.
relation to being a friend of Lane, um, he did like ghost write a little bit on that second Infinite Spectrum album.
Oh, okay.
He's a really good composer who just never releases any music because he's a perfectionist. And but he chimed in and gave us like some ideas and stuff. Like he would listen to the song after it was done and say like, I really think you could use this, or why don't you try this kind of thing. So I would say he wasn't exactly a producer, but he was like a sort of like a producer a little bit, at least at the writing stage. And then after that, for Cage, um, Alex Rakin was less involved initially, just because he had some personal stuff going on he had to take care of. So I started writing it myself, and then Stan joined in, and he is credited for being one of the writers for Cage, even though he's not in the band. But it was an interesting process because up until that point, it was pretty much like the Alex Rakin and Alex Rapetti show.
Yeah.
And after that, it switched. So it was a new dynamic, but it worked really well. Stan and I wrote 8 out of the 10 tracks in about 6 weeks,
Oh, wow.
which for that kind of music, I thought was incredibly fast. And then towards the end of that process, then Alex Rakin had some time, and um, like him and I wrote the remaining 2 songs.
When
Um,
when you started writing the album, was it with the intention of having guest vocalists?
no, it was not.
Okay.
We did have like the concept, the full story was there
Okay.
before we wrote a single note. Um, because like even the name of the album was figured out at the beginning, the Cage, because those 4 letters um, are baked into every song, either in the chords or arpeggio sequences or melodies.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if you really dive into it more, there's like all kinds of weird um, thematic stuff happening with like the word cage.
Yeah.
There's even Morse code rhythms in the songs that
Oh,
spell it out.
wow.
Yeah, we went very like brainiac with it.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's fascinating.
It was very fun to like try and think of all the different creative ways we can do it. Like Far Away, the one you mentioned, the chord progression is CAG.
Oh, nice.
Um, yeah, so the writing process on that one, we had the full story plotted out. Um, as a concept. And then I started writing it and making all the themes, and then Stan joined in shortly after, and we were going through it. But at the time, Will Severn was still in the band, and the thought would be that he would sing all of it, and he would just sort of like what some other bands do, where even if there's multiple characters, you just have the one singer do it and maybe try to sound a little different each time.
Right. Yeah.
And just kind of notate in the booklet or something that it's a different character, sort of like scenes from a memory, I suppose.
Yeah. I was yeah, James LaBrie he does that with a lot of Dream Theater stuff.
Yeah. That was the original thought, but when Will Severin wasn't in the band anymore, I thought, this is like a very unique and unusual opportunity to go an extra step than what we thought. Instead of like trying to make it happen with one voice, how about we don't? This is like we're in the interim of not having a singer, and even though I'm sure we'll have one soon, why don't we take this chance to do something we'll probably never get to do again?
Yeah.
And just really find the perfect voice for each character. So we really took our time picking who we wanted, and a couple of people said no, but for the most part, we got exactly who we wanted for each character.
Did you? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, did you have to make any changes based on their vocal ranges or?
Oh, that's a great question. Not really. The only thing that I would say that's sort of like that is we told each singer who was brought in, like we gave them a demo of either me or Alex Rakin singing the melody, but we said like, don't feel like you need to copy what we're doing. If you feel like the melody should go down instead of up, do it. Or like if this is a little too high for you, just take it down. Or like for one track in particular, there's a track 4. That singer Billy Douglas. After I got to hear a little bit more of some of his different vocal stylings, I really loved his like screams. Mm-hmm. Which originally we hadn't really intended for that song. The parts that he did scream in the song had melodies originally. But when we like really thought about like, oh yeah, if he can do that, then it might sound really cool here and here. So we didn't tell him exactly where to do it, but we said, I feel like there's opportunities throughout the song for you to use your screams. So have fun with it. So nice. Each singer that we brought in did get to have at least some creative input on how their part came out, which I think is a big part of why maybe it sounds like it gelled well, because like they weren't trying to just replicate what we told them to do.
Yeah, that's really cool. I would imagine that was a fun and maybe nerve-wracking process of finding the singers, or did you have, once you made that decision to go down that path, I mean, was it kind of no-brainer with some of them? It's like, oh yeah, we have to get so and so, or was it like, oh my God, who do we get to do this? I mean, did it take some time to kind of come up with who you wanted and making those decisions?
Yeah, I would say we spent like a solid couple of months, like really exploring, like maybe this voice, not quite. Let's keep looking around, this kind of thing. Lots of phone calls and messages about it and pondering on it, sleeping on it, changing our minds. But ultimately, I'm very happy with how all the choices came out.
Yeah,
there's no buyer's remorse.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I think it flows really well, and I think maybe this is a dumb question, but were there singers that you brought in like, okay, we're gonna have you do this song, and then once they sang like, wait a minute, they should be on this song instead? Did you have any experience like that at all, or?
Not exactly like that, but once we knew that Will Shaw was going to do one, we took a lot of extra time to try and make sure we had the exact right one for him.
Okay.
there were a few candidates in terms of which song for him. I mean, but ultimately we went with the one we did, and we thought that was like the best one that would give him um, enough space to really use his range.
Yeah.
He's one who we didn't ask him to do this, but he did, and we're very glad. When we gave him the demo, some of the parts of the song um, were an octave lower than how he sang them.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I think it was like the pre-choruses. Um, Alex Rakin is the one who sang the demo for that one. Um, and he was singing the demo kind of at the top of his range. Um, but then when Will listened to it, he took it up an octave, which really changed how the song felt in a great way.
Yeah.
It's just kind of soaring over the music.
Yeah. Yeah. His vocal range is, oof, yeah.
Yeah.
Goosebumps. Yeah.
Yeah.
That guy is. And how did that transition happen with him being a guest singer to like, to now being the singer?
Right. After he finished his vocals for the track and got to hear the final mix before it was mastered, he just really loved how it sounded, and he wasn't really that familiar with us, so he went and delved into our other music,
Hmm.
and we sent him like the almost finished mixes for the other songs, and he just really liked what we were doing, and he was saying, I had a lot of fun doing this. You know, and so I just said, well, why don't you just stick around then?
Cool.
And he's like, okay, yeah. So it was pretty organic.
That's great. That's
Yeah,
that's a cool story. That's really cool. That's heartwarming. It's cool.
yeah, yeah.
That's great. Um, I wanted to circle back just something you said before about that you started playing kind of at an older age.
Mm.
So yeah, I was curious about the kind of your beginnings in music. Did you come from a musical family? Kind of what was the impetus for you to start playing, and what did you
I
start
did
playing?
not. I did not come from a musical family. None. No musicians in my family. Apparently, I had like one great aunt who was a pianist, but I virtually I had like no musical people in my family. And how did that happen? It's kind of a funny story. I was on AOL radio, which kind of dates the time, and I was just kind of like browsing. I was kind of just trying to look for something else to listen to, because at the time I was just listening to whatever was on MTV or the radio, and I stumbled on Led Zeppelin, and I'd heard them before, but I hadn't like really heard them before, and I heard them, and it just blew me away. Um, like I heard the first song that I heard that day was Black Dog, um, and I just loved how the guitar sounded. And I knew right then I want to do that. I need to do that. I need to learn how to do that. Um, and so a few weeks later, I got like a very, very entry level starter pack of like, a very cheaply made guitar and a very tiny amp and cable in a bag and stuff. And I just started practicing. But at the time, YouTube and stuff was not really as like prominent and filled with content as it is now.
Hmm.
So I couldn't really find that much stuff in terms of like online lessons. Like now you could just type into YouTube and have an endless
Yeah.
list of stuff. But at that time there was a little bit, but not much. So I tried to just do everything by ear. And I could find some guitar tabs online, but a lot of them were wrong, and that still is the case today. A lot of times, like Alex Rakin says this too. Like a lot of times when students ask like to learn a song, we'll pull up a tab and say, "Oh yeah, no, that's not right. Never mind. Let's just figure it out."
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, at the time I tried learning by ear, and I learned a little bit of stuff. And I had a couple of friends at my high school who played, who were able to show me a little bit. Like, oh well, this is a C chord or something like that. But uh, right around that time, a close friend of mine, who was a very, very good musician, who like had been studying music since he was like 4 or something like that, told me that I was tone deaf.
Oh.
And he wasn't saying it in like an insulting way, which is a funny thing to say because it's just it is insulting. But he wasn't saying it maliciously.
Right.
He was saying it in sort of like he said, "Yeah, I think you're tone deaf. You might not want to like go down this road." Um, and that kind of like in some ways, or in a lot of ways, I should say, like really, really set me on a certain trajectory
Mm.
because I believed him, but I wanted to do it anyway. So I kind of always had this like stigma with myself that I I am tone deaf, so I need to rely on like a tuner to make sure my guitar is in tune. Or if I'm writing music, I need to like understand music theory in order to make sure the notes are right because I can't trust my ear.
Uh,
And things like this. It was a weird psychological thing that it took a lot of time to gradually grow out of, and kind of realize like, well, okay, if I've gotten this far along, then obviously I can hear some things, and
yeah.
I can trust my ear more. But really, only it's only in the last few years that I finally tried to start singing a little bit because that was like the last um, like mental block that I had, I guess, where even as a touring musician writing albums, I still believed that I couldn't sing in tune, because of this one comment as a teenager.
Interesting.
Um, I even went to music school and everything, and I just always believed that I couldn't do it. Um, and I tried to do it a little bit. My my now better half Gail kind of like pushed me into trying to sing a little bit, and I was very shy about it, and I didn't think I was very good. And um, but over time, well, actually, maybe about 5 years ago, I was working at Macy's at Herald Square, like the one with the parades and stuff,
Oh, nice.
and I was working there at Christmas time, so they had like a 10 or 12 song playlist that was just on loop the whole day. So I literally like listened to the same 12 Christmas songs over and over and over again for like 4 months because they started playing it in September.
Oh man.
Yeah. So what I kind of did to try and like bear with it a little bit was, well, I hear them so much that I definitely know the melodies at this point. Maybe I can try and hum along harmonies with them.
Hmm.
It kind of became a thing to do at work, especially when it was less busy, to like try and teach myself how to find harmonies, without relying on an instrument. Like I studied music theory, so I knew that like, oh well, a C is playing, so I can sing an E or an E flat depending on the key or whatever. But like I knew that in my head, but like finding the pitch without like using an instrument to find it for me was new. And so by the time Christmas was over, I was singing harmony to all the tracks at work, very comfortably. And so that definitely boosted my like pitch confidence a little bit.
Nice.
And then, but even after that, it still took a couple of years to like really feel okay with singing. And that's a big part of why I did that single by myself,
Mm.
at the beginning of last year. In addition to like doing all the other instruments, I thought like, well, you know what, I'm going to give it a try. I'll sing lead vocals. The worst that could happen is people don't like it, and I had fun anyway.
Yeah, yeah. That's like I love how positive you are about, especially like the Christmas, like these Christmas, like I would have gone batshit crazy. But I
I
love
was
like, all right, I'm gonna make this a positive. I'm gonna use this
right.
to help me as a musician. I think that's brilliant. I love that. That's really cool. Do you and not that you're a malicious person. I don't know if you're still in contact with that kid that told you that you're deaf.
Uh,
Yeah, you should. Have you sent him the CD of?
I'm still in touch with. I'm not going to name him because I don't want to. I don't want to like shame him or anything.
Right.
I am still in touch with him, and we're friends. And he doesn't remember saying it, but said that if he did, he was a jerk. So,
Yeah,
I
just
think for him, it was just a passing comment. He didn't really think much of it. He's just a
yeah,
dumb teenager, just like I
yeah,
was. And
yeah.
um,
And we also do
but yeah,
terrible things as teenagers. So I mean, yeah, it's
exactly. Yeah.
what is it? Yeah, you don't develop empathy until you're like 25 or something like that. So you just
Is that true?
yeah,
Wow.
I read that somewhere. Yeah, you just kind of shoot your mouth off, as a kid. You don't even think about, oh, this might really hurt somebody's feelings, and
Wow.
be very
Huh.
detrimental to their life. But no, I'm glad
Yeah.
that you rebelled against that. I think that's,
It took a
we're
while.
all, I think, I'm grateful, because I think with, um, especially with Severed Angel, I think your vocals are great. And what I like about it too is that I think that you have a unique voice.
Mm,
You don't sound like everybody else,
right.
in that same genre. You have a different voice, which is one of the things that I think why I'm attracted to the band and the music of the band, is that it
Thank you.
doesn't sound like, because and I love I love metal. I'm a huge metalhead, um obviously, and and I love power metal, and I and
Yeah,
progressive metal, and I love, and there's a lot of great bands out there, and there's a lot of bands that sound exactly alike,
that's true.
and I think you guys have done something very unique and different, but still in the genre, and but I think you're pushing boundaries, and you're doing something interesting and fun, which I think is cool and important.
Thank you.
Are there and you've said a little bit about this. You've named a few musicians and bands, but I was like, who for you? And this may be a bit of a loaded question, especially being multi instrumental. But yeah, for who are some of the influences for you? One as a vocalist, and then also as a musician, and why?
Hmm. Huh. Yeah, that's hard. Well, I'll put it this way. Led Zeppelin like made me into a musician, and Dream Theater made me into the musician that I am.
Oh, okay.
So they're very much my heroes, musically speaking. I mean, over the years, I've expanded my tastes and such, but for the entirety of my 20s, like I lived and breathed Dream Theater and
Nice.
other similar progressive bands. So yeah, I mean, like musical heroes. Even though he's not a bassist, John Petrucci is just the guy for me.
Yeah.
I like his writing. I like his playing, his production. It just, yeah, it's hard for me to write music without thinking like, what would John Petrucci do here?
Mm-hmm.
um, as a vocalist, obviously it can't be John Petrucci, but I don't really exactly have a specific vocal hero, which well, I'm going to backtrack. I've had some people ask me, um, like, who are you trying to emulate vocally? And, or like, when you're doing that technique, who are you trying to sound like? Um, and I'm not. I mean, I have like maybe like a general sense of like, oh, okay, well, I want like gritty vocals in this spot, and I want, you know, clean vocals here, maybe something falsetto there and something a little bit more whispery here or something. But like, I'm not really thinking of people when I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Um, I know a lot of vocalists do think of people like they have the vocalists they love and they try to emulate them, and that's how they kind of come into their sound. But that just hasn't been the trajectory for me so far, at least.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think that's, as I mentioned before, I think you have a very unique voice, and that's cool to hear that. Yeah. And yeah, I don't think it's not a bad thing that people are emulating. I think that,
oh, not at
sometimes
all.
that's a great way to build your vocal skills. Um,
Totally.
but I think that's cool to hear that. Yeah, you're kind of looking more for the sound, not so much the person.
Yeah.
And I think that comes through. It's like, yeah, because I think that was one of the things, as I mentioned before, so I find the music very compelling and interesting and unique. And yeah, and again, I think it's, when I hear you sing it, I don't think of other vocalists necessarily. It's like,
Right.
yeah, that's Alex. Whereas there are other bands where it's like, oh yeah, they sound a lot like so and so, or there's
Yes.
similarities. And I mean, even to the point that there's some bands like I listen to them, and then I want to listen to the band that I think they're trying to sound like.
Right. Yes.
Where I don't, I definitely don't do that with Severed Angel. So yeah, that's cool.
Right.
That's really interesting. And I thought I liked sorry, this not off topic, but um I thought it was cool that you guys covered Ghost and you didn't try to emulate Papa. You sang it how you would sing it. I thought that was
Yeah.
pretty and
There's a
music.
funny story with that one,
Oh, cool. Yeah.
actually.
I'd love to hear it.
The same guy who keeps coming up, Stan. He's like infamous with all three bands. He's like he's the honorary band member of all of them. But he had been saying to me for a while, "Oh, you kind of sound like the singer from Ghost. I think you should cover Ghost." And I was like, I don't know. I don't really hear that. Um, and then the guys in Severed Angel wanted to cover Ghost. And I said, "Oh, all right. You know what? I mean, Stan has been pushing me to do that for a while now. So let's give it a try." So they
Nice.
picked which song it was. I actually I've since become a bigger Ghost fan, but at the time I didn't really know them too well.
Oh,
I
okay.
heard I heard their albums, but like once each or something.
Gotcha.
Uh, I saw them at one show because Stan was a big fan of them. I went with him. Um, but yeah, part of why I didn't sing it like him is that I just hadn't heard it that many times.
Hmm.
So I think that gave me a bit of like an edge in the sense of not sounding like him.
Yeah.
You know, if you've heard the song a million times, it's kind of hard to not try to sound like what you keep hearing. But I had only heard it a handful of times just to kind of learn it. Um, and then, yeah, I didn't try to sound like him.
Yeah.
Um,
Cool.
but that was a fun cover to do.
Yeah. And you guys did a great job. And I know Wayne said that, yeah, I think, he really wanted to do it because he's a big
Yeah.
Ghost fan, but he also wanted to do like a heavier, he wanted it to be heavy,
Hmm.
and so I think
Yes.
you guys pulled it off really well. I thought it was great.
Thank you.
And still giving homage to the band and to the music, but making it a Severed Angel song. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
I thought that was
Yeah.
cool.
Thank you.
That's yeah, I've never understood. I always get frustrated when you hear a cover and it's like, what was the point of that? It sounds the same. Like,
Yeah.
it's no personality to it. And I think you guys really added your personality to that song, which
Right.
that was great. I thought that was really cool.
Thank
Oh,
you. Yeah, it's great to hear that.
yeah, I loved it. Um, well, Alex, this has been an absolute pleasure chatting with you this evening.
Oh,
Thank
likewise.
you, thank you so much. For those of you watching, look in the description below. There are links to Infinite Spectre, Severed Angel, and of course, Tension Rising. Check them out. I think I've got the Facebook and also the web pages there, those links, and there's also there's multiple other links, Instagram and Twitter and all of those. And I think some of those pages also have Bandcamp as well. So you want to get on there, check these bands out, buy the CDs. You will not be sorry. Really cool stuff. All three bands have new music that came out this year. And I am obsessed. I'm listening to all of it constantly. Really digging it. I mean, definitely, I would say, top, on my top 10 list of albums that have come out in 2023 are these albums, would all be on this list. So very cool stuff. So again, Alex, thank you so very much. Cheers, my friend.
Oh, thank you as well. And that top 10 comment. Thank you. That really means a lot.
Oh, well, it's great stuff. So yeah.
Thank you.